and power derive. We beseech thee so to direct and prosper the deliberations of the Parliament now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations for the glory of thy name and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our sovereign King Charles III, William, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace, happiness, truth, and justice, religion and piety may be established amongst us. Especially we pray for the governor of our islands, the premier, the speaker of the parliament, the leader of the opposition, minister of the cabinet, ex officio members, members of the parliament, the chief justice and members of the judiciary, that we may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high office. All this we ask in thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace now and always. Amen.
Please be seated.
Administration of oaths and of petitions,
None.
presentation of papers and of reports, report and recommendation of the minister responsible for lands on the vesting of Crown Land Block 25B, Parcel 470, part to Peter Jervis, Rose Ebanks, and Maureen Jervis Brooks, to be laid on the table by the Honorable Premier, Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Education, District Administration and Lands, Financial Services, and Commerce and Health.
I recognize the Honorable Premier.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, all. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the report and recommendation of the Minister responsible for lands for, as it relates to the Governor Vesting Act 2025 revision for the sale of Crown land, registration section spots, Block 25B, Parcel 470, part to Peter Jervis, Rose Ebanks, and Maureen Brooks Jervis.
So ordered. Does the Honorable Premier wish to speak thereto?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if I may first provide some background. Block 25B, Parcel 470, comprises of an undeveloped square-shaped small parcel of Crown land, being 0.2297 acres in area, located on Mangrove Avenue in Prospect, Grand Cayman. The parcel's origin is derived from a 1987 subdivision, and the parcel is zoned low-density residential. It is 2 to 3 feet above sea level and partly wet. Mr. Speaker, the adjacent property is a residence, namely Block 25B, Parcel 471, registered to a Peter Jervis, Rose Ebanks, and Maureen Brooks Jervis since 1999. There has been some minor encroachment of development over the part of the boundary and onto the Crown parcel. The inadvertent encroachment appears to have taken place many years ago. However, it was only recently, Mr. Speaker, when the encroachment was noticed, when the owners prepared to put their property up for sale. Mr. Speaker, the owners then contacted the Cayman Islands government and requested to purchase a small strip of the Crown parcel in order to regularize the encroachment. Cabinet reviewed the report of the matter and agreed the parties could negotiate and sell approximately 0.06 of an acre or 2,926 square feet, 26% portion of the Crown parcel to the adjoining landowners. Mr. Speaker, 3 valuations of the land to be transferred are required under the Governor Vesting of Lands Act 2025 revision, one from the government's Chief Valuation Officer, CVO, and 2 from independent property valuation companies. The table I'm about to explain, Mr. Speaker, outlines 3 opinions of market value obtained. Firstly, Lands and Survey, the sum of $43,000. Castle K, $80,000, and Charter Land, $47,000. Mr. Speaker, a figure of $57,500, that's Cayman Islands dollars, was negotiated between the valuation office and the purchaser. After careful analysis and consideration of the report provided, Cabinet resolved to advise Her Majesty, Her Excellency the Governor, to approve the sale of the approximately 0.06 of an acre, a portion of the Crown land of 25B, parcel 470, to Peter Jervis, Rose Ebanks, and Maureen Brooks Jervis for a consideration of $57,500. Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet has not, however, waived the stamp duty due on the said transfer. The purchaser will pay for the survey work required to enable the subject portion of the land to be subdivided from parcel 470 and combined into parcel 471. Mr. Speaker, I can indeed confirm that as required by the Act, the details of this proposed land disposition have been published in the Cayman Islands Gazette on the 17th day of January this year and in a local newspaper, namely the Caymanian Times, on the 21st day of January of the said year. Mr. Speaker, accompanying the report are all of the documents as required and indeed specified under Section 10.2 of the Governor of Vesting of Lands Act 2025 revision, including the valuation reports. Mr. Speaker, I now thank you for allowing me to elucidate on this important matter.
Cayman Islands Constitution, Electoral District Boundaries Order 2025, to be laid on the table by the Honorable Premier, Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Education, District Administration and Lands, Financial Services, and Commerce and Health.
I recognize the Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honorable Parliament the Electoral District Boundaries Order 2025.
So ordered. Does the Honorable Premier wish to speak thereto?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you would rightly know, having duly approved, there will be a government motion that I will speak to later today. So in the interest of time, I will reserve my comments and debate thereon.
Very well.
Cayman Islands Stamp Duty Act 2019 revision, Stamp Duty Rates of Duty Regulations 2025, to be laid on the table by the Honorable Premier, Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Education, District Administration and Lands, Financial Services, and Commerce and Health.
I recognize the Honorable Premier.
Once again, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honorable Parliament the Stamp Duty Rates of Duty Regulations 2026.
So ordered. Does the Honorable Premier wish to speak thereto?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the House will recall that the government accepted a private member's motion led by the official opposition, motion number 1 of 2024-2025 on the 9th day of October last year. The private member's motion called for the government to remove the impediment that prevented Caymanians acquiring their first or second property from enjoying a stamp duty concession simply because the property fell within a certain geographical area within our islands. The government accepted that there was a need to remove that impediment and therefore agreed to the private member's motion. The impediment is found in paragraph 1, Mr. Speaker, under the schedule to the Stamp Duty Act 2019 revision under the head of duty entitled, and I quote, conveyance or transfer of any immovable property, unquote, because it states that the duty is 7.5%, and 7.5% is a rate that is higher than Caymanians acquiring property for the first or second time would normally have to pay if it was in another segment. This impediment is removed now by Regulation 2 in the Stamp Duty Rates of Duty Regulation 2025 that was just tabled, because Regulation 2, Mr. Speaker, repeals the section of the Principal Act that hitherto prevented a concession being available to Caymanians because the property was in a certain geographical areas in the islands, in particular the 7 Mile Strip and parts of Eastern Avenue. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, when the regulations that I have just tabled takes full effect, and that is expected to be within the next 21 days, Caymanians will then be able to enjoy a stamp duty concession when purchasing property in areas such as Britannia West Bay. Regulation 2 makes another important change. It brings into effect the current dollar thresholds that are being used now in assessing whether a Caymanian acquiring a property for the first or second time will be eligible to receive a stamp duty concession. An illustration, Mr. Speaker, in the Stamp Duty Act itself, it states that a Caymanian acquiring property for the first time does not have to pay any stamp duty if the value of that property does not exceed $400,000. This is an outdated value, and the regulations that have been tabled updates the recent practice that was intimated when the former premier, the member from Newlands, was here, that the figure of 550,000 would reflect that regime's and government's desire. It is continued to be used, Mr. Speaker. This update is achieved now by Regulation 2. Mr. Speaker, the regulations that have been tabled were prepared under the authority of Section 27 of the Stamp Duty Act 2019 revision, which specifies that the regulations so drafted are subject to a negative resolution of this said Parliament. In turn, Mr. Speaker, this means that the regulations which I just previously tabled will take effect after 3 weeks have elapsed unless the regulations are negated by a contrary set of regulations that the Parliament approves. Given that these regulations are positive for our Caymanian people, I therefore cannot see, Mr. Speaker, that any single solitary member of this Parliament would challenge the regulations that have just been tabled. May it please you, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Cayman Turtle Farm Conservation and Education Center Limited Annual Report for the year ended 31st December 2022, to be laid on the table by the Honorable Deputy Premier, Minister of Tourism and Sports and Social Development and Innovation.
I recognize the Honorable Deputy Premier.
Give your indulgence, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to lay before this honorable House the annual report of the Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center financial year ended for the 31st of December 2022.
So ordered. Does the Honorable Deputy Premier wish to speak thereto?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. In accordance with Section 44(6) of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020 revision, Mr. Speaker,
It gives me great pleasure to place before this honorable House the annual report and audited financial statements of Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center Limited for the fiscal year ended the 31st of December, 2022. Mr. Speaker, the audited financial statements show that the net loss for the year ended 31st of December, 2022, year after COVID, was 9.578 million. The center had current assets of 2.34 million and non-current assets of 70,823,000. Total assets amounted to 73.163 million as of the 31st of December 2022. The center had current liabilities of 1.63 million and non-current liabilities of 7.42 million, Mr. Speaker. Total liabilities amounted to 9.065 million and a total shareholders' equity of 64,097,097. Mr. Speaker, this was an unqualified audit opinion by the Auditor General, signed off on the 16th of October, 2024. The Auditor General stated, and I quote, "In my opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the company as of the 31st of December 2022, and its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with the International Financial Reporting Standards," end quote, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Cayman Turtle Conservation Education Center is pleased to have received this unqualified opinion and is proud of its continued hard work that has been undertaken by the CTC team, led by its Chief Executive Officer and its Chief Financial Officer, to receive this opinion from the Auditor General. So I take this opportunity to thank the center staff, all the good hard-working Caymanians, and the Office of the Auditor General for their work that they've done in producing these audited financial statements for our Turtle Conservation Center and Education Center for the fiscal year ended the 31st of December, 2022. I now invite all members of this Parliament to review, as well for the public to review the report in detail. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Cayman Airways Annual Report 2023, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Premier, Minister of Tourism and Ports and Social Development and Innovation.
I recognize the Honorable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to lay before this honorable House the annual report of Cayman Airways Limited for the year ended the 31st of December, 2023.
So ordered. Does the Honorable Deputy Premier wish to speak thereto?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. In accordance with Section 44(6) of the Public Management and Financial Law 2020 revision, I place before this honorable House the audited financial statements of Cayman Airways Limited for the year ended the 31st of December, 2023. Mr. Speaker, during the fiscal period, the airlines transported 422,189 passengers on a total of 10,417 flights. During the period, the airline also transported over 2,134 tons of cargo. In June 2023, the airline relaunched non-stop service between Panama and the Cayman Islands. And in October 2023, the airline launched a new regional route with non-stop service between the Cayman Islands and Barbados. In November 2023, the airline also expanded its Los Angeles service by adding a second weekly frequency. Additionally, incentives such as participation in the United States TSA PreCheck program and the installation of a setback power underscored the dedication to passenger satisfaction by the company. By participating in the United States TSA PreCheck program, enrolled passengers on Cayman Airways to provide an expedited security procedures and allowing more efficiency with our airline. Mr. Speaker, Cayman Airways proactively addressed the volatile and unpredictable cost of fuel in 2023 by actively monitoring and aggressively pursuing alternatives to minimize fuel cost. The airline showcased a commitment to financial prudence, Mr. Speaker. The airline focused on maximizing uplift in low-cost jurisdictions and tigering sufficient fuel as so not to be required uplift or requiring expensive fuel from expensive markets. Cayman Airways consumed 5.05 million gallons of fuel in 2023 compared to 2019 6.94 million gallons, and in 2022, 4.53 million gallons, the first year of the post-pandemic flying. This marks, Mr. Speaker, a 27% reduction in fuel consumption from the year 2019, something this Honorable House should be proud of, Mr. Speaker. During 2023, the airline reported a net loss of $9.6 million. The airline had current assets of $16.8 million and non-current assets of $32.85 million, Mr. Speaker. Total assets amounted to $49.65 million as of the 31st of December, 2023. The airline had current liabilities of $44.55 million and non-current liabilities of $27.65 million. Total liabilities amounted to $72.2 million, Mr. Speaker, and the total liabilities and shareholder deficits was $49.6 million. Mr. Speaker, the financial statements have been audited by the Auditor General in accordance with the provisions of Section 61A of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020 revision. An unqualified opinion has been issued on the 2023 financials, with an emphasis of matter for the company's reliance on financial support from the Cayman Islands government. The Auditor General states that the financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the company as of the 31st of December, 2023, and its financial performance and its cash flows for the year ended the 31st of December 2023, in accordance with the International Financial Reporting Standards, better known as IFRS. Mr. Speaker, in closing, I would like to thank the board and the management of Cayman Airways Limited for their efforts in producing these audited financial statements and the Office of the Auditor General for auditing them. But more importantly, the amazing staff for their hard work of keeping the company going, and also all of our committed customers to our national airline. I now invite the members of this Honorable House and the public to review this report in detail. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Cayman Islands Government 2021 and 2022 Annual HR Reports, to be laid on the table by the Honorable Deputy Governor, ex officio member responsible for the portfolio of the Civil Service.
I recognize the Honorable Deputy Governor.
Mr. Speaker, good morning. I wish to lay on the table of this Honorable House the Cayman Islands Government 2021 and 2022 Annual HR Reports.
So ordered. Does the Honorable Deputy Governor wish to speak thereto?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you. I have lots to say. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to present in this Honorable House the 2021 and 2022 Human Resources Annual Reports for the Civil Service. These reports document trends in human resource activity for the Civil Service, as well as provide statistics on employee headcount within the statutory authorities and government-owned companies. Mr. Speaker, while these reports cover 2021 2021 and 2022, I would respectfully request a bit of latitude in my remarks, as from time to time I will mention some statistics and some achievements for some for the years, so 23, 24. I crave your indulgence. Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, the portfolio of the Civil Service has responsibility for providing me with corporate HR management information to support decision-making within government. As part of this service, HR annual reports are produced. These reports contain detailed information relating to operational HR matters throughout the prior years and statistical trends over a number of years. Mr. Speaker, in 2021, there was an overall increase in the size of the public service, with increases in both the civil service and the SAGCs from the prior year. At the end of 2021, the number of Caymanians employed within the public service was 5,205, which represented 72.5% of the public service. Within the core civil service, Caymanian representation increased by more than 1% to 71.8%. Mr. Speaker, by the end of 2022, the number of Caymanians employed within the public service was 5,197, representing 71.4% of the public service, while Caymanian representation within the core civil service decreased slightly, going to 71.8%, decreased slightly, going from 71.8% to 71%. Mr. Speaker, although this slight decrease may be viewed as discouraging when compared to the labor force indicators published by the ESO in the fall of 2022, the percentage of Caymanians in the core civil service is higher than the Caymanians working age population by 26.8%. Mr. Speaker, between 2021 and 2022, female representation within the core civil service held steady at 55.7%, which is 6.5% higher than the percentage reported in the Economics and Statistics Office labor force indicators for the female working age population. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to report that 50% of my senior team are women. In terms of the civil service benefits package, much work was done to uplift salaries between 2021 and 2022, with increases taking effect in both years. Notably, in 2022, the civil service increased salaries for civil servants through the implementation of a 2% cost of living adjustment, COLA, in September 2022, and the award of a one-pay increment broadly equivalent to 2.5% to civil servants which took effect in December 2022. Compared to December 21, when the average civil service salary was $53,443, salaries increased by $3,414 per year, bringing the average salary in 2022 to $56,857. 2022 marked the 8th consecutive year that the average civil service salaries increased. Mr. Speaker, we owe the governments of the day grateful thanks for their support of the civil service in this regard. Mr. Speaker, the public service stands as the largest employer of Caymanians. We are proud to have maintained this standard and aim to further grow our already high percentage. To support this objective, the civil service has made numerous strides in the internal development and promotional opportunities for Caymanians. The civil service has already yielded significant wins, including Caymanians currently leading all 5 branches of our uniformed services: the Royal Cayman Islands Police, Customs and Border Control, Her Majesty's Prison Service, Cayman Islands Coast Guard, and the Cayman Islands Fire Service. And Mr. Speaker, you will recall that just not long ago, the majority of these posts were held by non-Caymanians. They're all now held by our people. Within the core civil service, Caymanians hold 81%, 64 persons of the senior leadership roles, chief officers and heads of department. And as of the 31st of December 2023, non-Kimanians held 19% or 15 of our senior leadership roles. Kimanians hold 100% of deputy chief officer roles, save for equivalent positions which have other primary designations such as Deputy Auditor General, Deputy Solicitor General, and Deputy Ombudsman. The Civil Service continues to uphold its Kimanian first policy for hiring, where Kimanians who are the most qualified for a post is offered employment. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, in cases where Kimanians' qualifications and experience are ranked broadly equivalent to their foreign counterparts, they are given preference and appointed. Organizational practice to advertise posts held by non-Kimanians prior to contract renewals, allowing for qualified Kimanians to be recruited for the position, whether it's a new position or it's a position, a post that is being, the contract is being renewed. The Civil Service also continues to steadfastly maintain its ability to hiring returning graduates without open competition. This initiative provides our returning scholars with opportunities to utilize their newly gained experience within the Civil Service as they start to advance in their careers. Mr. Speaker, just 2 weeks ago, I was privileged to appoint a young Kimanian, Jada Evans, to a post in the Ministry of Health as a returning graduate. Mr. Speaker, the smile on her face when she received her contract is unforgettable. Mr. Speaker, we also have 3 Kimanians, returning graduates, working in the Ministry of Sports. Aisha Ebanks, Abraham Powery, and Alea General, all outstanding young Kimanian graduates. I'm sure the minister will attest to that. Mr. Speaker, we also offer on-the-job training and job shadowing via diverse talent management tools, including acting appointments, secondments, and allocation of additional duty assignments. Mr. Speaker, the Civil Service has continually taken steps and produced initiatives to increase the number of Kimanians in our Civil Service. These highlighted initiatives allows us to continue our efforts to provide opportunities for Kimanians to join the Civil Service and experience pathways of professional growth and advancements. I now wish to speak on the bespoke programs and initiatives which have benefited numerous Kimanians. Mr. Speaker, I am delighted to share that the Civil Service College has established a scholarship program which will develop the skills and career prospects for our Kimanian civil servants. This outstanding initiative, which is only available for Kimanians, provides financial support to scholarship recipients and inevitably provides them with the tools needed to progress in their respective fields of study. With the knowledge gains, Kimanian civil servants with fresh perspectives, enhanced skills, will make significant contributions to their departments. This scholarship program will ultimately lead to more effective governance and improved services for the people of the Cayman Islands. The first civil servants to receive scholarships under the new Civil Service College scholarship program are 7 talented Caymanians, representing a diverse range of government ministries, departments, and sectors. The scholarship program has given them the opportunity to pursue their academic studies to enhance their professional expertise and their career development. These civil servants are Tiffany Jackson, who works in the Department of Lands and Survey, Ms. Lisa Mallis, who is in the Ministry of Home Affairs, Shalise Jeffrey, who is in the portfolio of the Civil Service, Shanna Wallace, who is in the Ministry of Tourism, Shannon Hanna, who is an accounts officer in the Ministry of Education, Ms. Pettigay Brown, who is in the Department of Lands and Survey, and Ms. Serena Whitaker, who is in our Facilities Department in the Ministry of Planning. All outstanding Caymanians who are eager to learn more and to move up within the civil service. These promising Caymanians are pursuing a wide variety of academic programs, ranging from associate degrees in public administration to advanced master's degrees in specialized fields. This diversity reflects the Civil Service College commitment to fostering a public sector workforce with a wide array of skills tailored to meet the evolving demands of government service. Mr. Speaker, the Civil Service College training and courses are an avenue to show the civil service ongoing commitment to investing in learning and development. This has resulted in Caymanian civil servants being better prepared to take advantage of career opportunities which arise through internal promotion and job expansions. It is also a direct accomplishment under Goal 3 of the Civil Service Strategic Plan, which is to pursue excellence in talent development. Mr. Speaker, another talent management program within the Cayman Islands government, which has aided the advancement of Caymanians, is the Emerging Talent Program. This program provides opportunities for persons to gain the practical experience necessary for permanent appointments, as well as facilitate talent mobility within the civil service. Under the Emerging Talent Program, 3 Caymanians were recruited or seconded to gain experience in their respective fields, with 2 of the participants being confirmed in the post as of January 1st, 2024. Mr. Speaker, the civil service not only aims to provide opportunities for civil servants, but also to future workforce of the Cayman Islands government. We have consistently offered opportunities to Caymanians through our summer internship program. This annual program allows Caymanian students to explore the broad range of careers available in the civil service. With an array of different jobs available in the public sector, the program provides an opportunity for students to apply knowledge gained from their studies. Last year, internship program gave over 90 young Caymanian students valuable opportunities to gain hands-on experience, enhance their skills, and make meaningful contributions to the civil service. 23 of the 90 interns were formally recognized for their dedication, hard work, and professionalism during their summer internship with the government. Awards for passion, integrity, and professionalism and customer service were presented to 4 interns who exceeded expectations and distinguished themselves in their respective roles. For passion, we had Janae Whitaker. For integrity, we had Joanna Sigworth. For professionalism, Tori Lewis. For customer service, Madeline Whitaker. And I congratulate these outstanding young Caymanians. The Computer Services Department proudly achieved a highly successful internship program by welcoming 17 Caymanian students who gained invaluable hands-on experience across various IT roles. The internship program provided a unique platform for the young Caymanians to work alongside seasoned IT professionals, actively contributing to meaningful real-world projects. The interns collaborated and worked closely with the IT governance team, playing a key role in developing IT policies and roadmaps, drafting business cases, and documenting minutes for the weekly Change Advisory Board meetings. Their contributions also included constructing forms used on Oracle Apex tools, as well as supporting the development of coding, debugging, and maintenance of Oracle applications. They were also instrumental in the installation and maintenance of computers, printers, and other computer equipment, and provided critical support by troubleshooting software and hardware issues in the field. Mr. Speaker, the success story shows the civil service is committed to providing our young Caymanians and future civil servants with tools needed to excel in their studies and gain the experience needed to advance in their careers or future endeavors. Mr. Darva Whitaker, our newly appointed Caymanian Director of Computer Services Department, summarized the impact of the internship program in a quote that he shared. He expressed, "Our interns brought fresh perspectives, enthusiasm, and a willingness to learn that truly energized our teams. Their contributions were not only impactful in terms of project delivery, but also enhanced our staff mentoring and leadership skills. Mr. Speaker, many of our high-performing world-class civil servants began as young Kimanian interns. A significant testament to this is our own 2023 Employee of the Year, Ms. Zane Ramran. Mr. Speaker, the civil service has always been dedicated to investing in our people and investing in our Kimanians for the betterment of the public sector and for the Cayman Islands as a whole. Our efforts are not only internal to the civil service, but stretch outwardly to the community through our Second Chances program. Mr. Speaker, this program is our way of employing persons who have had a run-in with the law, but who has shown that they are willing to be productive members of our society. And Mr. Speaker, in 2023, the Portfolio of Civil Service funded the participation of 3 persons in the Second Chances program. 2 participants were paired with jobs in the Department of Planning, and the third joined the Department of Agriculture. In addition of the 3 participants in 2023, the addition of the 3 participants in 2023 brought the total number of participants in the program who have been successfully matched to jobs in the civil service to a total of 14. That means, Mr. Speaker, that 14 Caymanians who were unemployed are now employed and are becoming productive members of our society. Mr. Speaker, I met one of those young men this morning, and he has been with us now for almost 2 years in the program. Mr. Speaker, when I met the young man before he came into the program, he was deflated, he was dejected. He basically said that, he wanted to give up. But this morning, when I saw him, he was the opposite. Full of life, smiling, very enthusiastic, and just really was happy to be in the government building. So, Mr. Speaker, that is what caring for our people is all about, taking a chance on those persons. And Mr. Speaker, while we have had 14 persons come through the program, we've only had 1 person that did not stay in the program. So we are having great success. And it shows that if you give persons a second chance, they will make the best of it. Mr. Speaker, it would be remiss of me not to mention the efforts being made to modernize the civil service and provide competitive benefits to attract, recruit, and retain Caymanian talent. One of the ways we are accomplishing this is through the civil service salary scale, which pays above minimum wage for all positions, including trainee roles. Civil service pay, particularly when considering total compensation factors of a 12% non-contributory pension and non-contributory health benefits, is highly competitive for most entry-level and low-skill roles. And Mr. Speaker, you will recall that the Premier, just in December, I believe, announced that the minimum salary in the civil service would be $3,000. I'm pleased to say that that has now been put into effect. And Mr. Speaker, the feedback that we have gotten from our employees around that has been tremendous. And they talked about how it has made their lives a lot better. Even though at times it is challenging to recruit Caymanians into skills and specialist roles such as law, auditing, and information technology, the civil service continues to make progress in this regard. Achievements such as our successful internship program in the Computer Services Department, and we've had a young Caymanian, Ms. Felicia Connor, as Crown Counsel joining the AG's chambers, demonstrates that the civil service continues to ensure Caymanians are given an opportunity to gain experience and participation needed, and the participant needs to have a beneficial and successful career in the civil service. Mr. Speaker, another of our efforts to attract and retain Caymanians is our family-friendly employment offerings. which were designed to attract family-minded employees and show that we are an employer that cares, including in our family-friendly benefits and perks are the non-contributor Reciprocal health insurance with copay or deductibles, without copay or deductibles, newly enhanced paid maternity and paternity leave, which took the maternity leave benefits to 110 days, of which 60 are fully paid, and doubling both the leave and pay component of paternity leave. Generous annual leave ranging from 18 to 28 days per annum, 2 well-being days per year to support mental health and wellness, diverse development opportunities which are free to all our employees, non-contributor pension which is paid to the Public Service Pension Board at 12% of total salary wages and which converts upon retirement into an annuity for the lifetime of the member. Mr. Speaker, the Cayman Islands government offers a very competitive benefit packages for civil servants, which in many cases extend to and positively impacts numerous Caymanian families. Despite the efforts, programs, and initiatives that are already in place to attract and retain Caymanians, we continue, Mr. Speaker, to explore additional avenues to attract even more. That said, Mr. Speaker, going forward, the civil service will review possible options to further attract qualified Caymanians, including increasing opportunities for Caymanians through the expansion of the Emerging Talent Program and the CIG Internship Program, seeking to further enhance the CIG benefits package, enhance succession planning, and, Mr. Speaker, linking civil service employment efforts with the Ministry of Education Scholarship Program, which I know our Premier is very happy to hear. Mr. Speaker, the civil service has made many strides to grow and enhance our services, increasing our efficiencies and invest in our civil servants by giving them the tools needed to deliver outcomes, grow professionally, and provide quality service to the community. Caymanians continue to lead, to grow, and advance in the civil service and wider public sectors. Countless testimonies can attest to this and the wide range of skills and capabilities they bring to the work they do. It is my hope that I can continue to witness young Caymanians find their way and career path within the civil service as I did, and be guided by the leadership and mentorship of senior level civil servants in their entities. By investing in our Caymanians, Mr. Speaker, we are not just supporting their growth, but are also strengthening the civil service with a future workforce that is better prepared, more confident, and more connected to the needs of our community. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Ministry of Border Control, Labor and Culture, Cayman Islands Government, the Immigration Transition Discussion White Paper, Consultation Overview, 22nd of January, 2025. To be laid on the table by the Honorable Minister of Border Control, Labor and Culture, Sustainability and Climate Resiliency and Wellness.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Border Control.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this honorable House motion entitled Public Consultation on the Proposed
Motion?
Amendment.
Honorable Minister, I don't
Sorry.
think you mean motion.
Yeah. Oh,
It's a discussion white paper.
yeah.
We can start again.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this honorable House a government motion entitled,
It's not a government motion, Honorable Minister.
sorry.
It's a discussion white paper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this honorable House Immigration Transition Discussion White Paper.
So ordered. Does the honorable minister wish to speak thereto?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, although I indicated I'd like to speak further on this discussion white paper, I want to thank you for that opportunity, for giving me that opportunity. What I'd like to say to the public is that I'd like them to peruse this discussion white paper and give as much feedback as possible. Thank you.
(2023, 2024) Annual Report of the Standing Public Accounts Committee, to be laid on the table by the Chairman of the Standing Public Accounts Committee, the elected member for Georgetown East.
I recognize the honorable member for Georgetown East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this honorable Parliament the 2023-2024 Annual Report of the Standing Public Accounts Committee.
So ordered. Does the honorable member wish to speak thereto?
Briefly, Mr. Speaker, to commend the report to the members of this honorable Parliament and to the public. It contains a very succinct report of the activities of the Public Accounts Committee for this past year. Mr. Speaker, I would point out that it is the final report that I will be delivering of this session of the Parliament 2021 to 2025. And it's been my pleasure to serve as chair of the committee. And I'd like to go on record in acknowledging and thanking all of the members of my committee for the support and their presence at our meetings and contributing throughout the 4 years to it. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to acknowledge and thank the Auditor General and her team for the great support that they have lent to the committee during the past 4 years, and as well as the Financial Secretary and the Accountant General, who, in accordance with standing orders, are permanent members of the committee. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I would just like to mention as well, finally, that the Auditor General will be leaving her post at the end of February, and I put on record our thanks to her for her services over the years, but particularly from us on the Public Accounts Committee for these past 4 years. I wish her Godspeed as she returns home to her family in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much, sir.
(2023-2024) Annual Report of the Standing Select Committee to oversee the performance of the Office of the Ombudsman, to be laid on the table by the Chairman of the Select Committee to oversee the performance of the Office of the Ombudsman, the elected member for West Bay North.
The honorable member for West Bay North is absent from today's sitting. Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The observation is indeed correct. So I beg with your indulgence and that of the House to move a motion for the deferral of the laying of this paper until Monday.
The question is that the 2023-2024 annual report of the Standing Select Committee to oversee the performance of the Office of the Ombudsman, the laying of that report be deferred until Monday coming. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. I believe the ayes have it. The 2023, the laying of the 2023-2024 annual report of the Standing Select Committee to oversee the performance of the Office of the Ombudsman has been deferred until the sitting on Monday coming.
Questions to honorable ministers and members of the cabinet?
I have no answers.
Statements by honorable ministers and members of the cabinet?
I have given leave to the Honorable Minister of Border Control, Labor and Culture to make a statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the undeniable fact is that there are several provisions in the proposed National Conservation Act.
Honorable Minister, the National Conservation Act is an actual act, piece of legislation in operation. So I think the use of the word there proposed is mistaken. Proceed, Honorable Minister. You may start again.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The undeniable fact is that there are several provisions in the National Conservation Act that has given rise to difficulties and therefore require amendments to address those difficulties. Some of those difficulties were highlighted in the Court of Appeal judgment in the case of Central Planning Authority versus National Conservation Council. There is a legal policy issue as it relates to the proportionate balance to be struck between the powers given to the NCC to override decisions of our public bodies, potentially including the constitutionally created cabinet, and the ability of those other public bodies in exercise of their own authorities functions, in exercise of their own statutory functions. There is no denying that the extent to which it is desirable to change that balance is ultimately a political question that can only be constitutionally affirmed by the Parliament, which originally enacted the NCA. Therefore, the proposed amendments would seek to make the legislation more workable without fundamentally undermining the ultimate policy intention underlying the NCC, in particular, the principle that A, all public bodies exercising their function should avoid damaging the environment when possible. B, where environmental harm is likely to result from a public body's activity, it should consult with the NCC before embarking on it. One of the sections of the law that has given rise to the most difficulty is Section 41, which imposes a general obligation on all public authorities, and in certain cases gives the NCC the power to veto decisions on such public authorities or to require the decisions to be taken only subject to certain conditions dictated by the NCC. In practice, however, the NCC's role has been discharged in many cases by the Director of the Department of Environment, acting pursuant to a delegated authority rather than by the whole council. And unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, as highlighted in the Court of Appeal judgment, those actions don't always conform with the legislation. In at least one case, there was a preemptive exercise of the NCC's veto powers. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, there are some issues with the legislation which may be summarized as follows. A, should the NCC have unlimited powers of veto over the decisions of the other public entities, and if yes, under what circumstances? B, should the obligation to counsel with the NCC before making certain types of decision apply to Cabinet itself? C, what, if any, changes should be made to the composition of the NCC? All these and many other issues should be discussed in this Parliament at the appropriate juncture to ensure that there is proper realignment of the balance of power under the legislation, not to put the legislation as some suggested, but rather to ensure proper balance.
Honorable Minister, I think you meant not to gut.
I repeat again, Mr. Speaker, that there is proper realignment of the balance of power under the legislation, not to gut the legislation as some have suggested, but rather to ensure proper balance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. By way of example, Mr. Speaker, the current combined efforts of Section 41.3 and 41.4 means that the NCC potentially has the power to require Cabinet not to take any decisions that would be likely to have an adverse impact on the environment without first carrying out an environmental impact assessment, or EIA, which must be carried out by a person approved by the NCC and in accordance with any directive of the NCC, potentially one person, the director, and there is no exception for a decision that the Cabinet considers to be urgent, none. This exists even through the Constitution in Section 44, specifically states that the Cabinet is the body that shall have responsibility for formulating policy and directing the implementation of such policy. This therefore means that the director could restrain the Cabinet, which is in my considered view, is entirely untenable. Mr. Speaker, the government was also minded that the existing NCC is in breach of Section 9(6) of the Public Authorities Act, which states that public officers or civil servants should not be entitled to vote, and currently the director has a vote. This, Mr. Speaker, is in keeping with good governance and is a worldwide benchmark and good practice. Just to reiterate what Section 9(6) of the Public Authorities Act state is that the cabinet may appoint a public or civil servant to a board. However, A, notwithstanding any other law, the membership of the board shall not be comprised of more than 40% public or civil servants. Or B, the chairperson shall not be a public or civil servant. And C, public or civil servant board members shall not be entitled to a vote. Mr. Speaker, in closing, I would like to take this moment to express my appreciation to the leader of the official opposition and other honorable members of the official opposition, as well as the member from Bordentown West, for their collaborative spirit in working with the government to ensure that the Parliament is correct, thereby allowing this honorable House to convene and fulfill its important responsibilities to the people of these islands. They have demonstrated a commendable understanding of the roles as elected representatives, placing the country's interests above all else. Their commitment underscores the importance of unity during these challenging times. Mr. Speaker, it is therefore the government's intention to withdraw the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your indulgence and allowing me to make this statement by virtue of Standing Order, Section 31.
Honorable Minister, in the interest of clarity, would you please specify what you mean by the same?
The National Conservation Bill.
The National Conservation Amendment Bill.
Amendment Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk. I haven't approved any more statements.
Personal explanations,
None,
obituary and other ceremonial speeches,
none,
raising of matters of privileges,
none,
government business, bills, first readings, referendum, cruise berthing, infrastructure, gambling, and cannabis bill, 2024.
The bill is deemed to have been read a first time and is set down for second reading.
Customs and Border Control Amendment Bill, 2024.
The bill is deemed to have been read a first time and is set down for second reading.
Beneficial Ownership Transparency Amendment Bill, 2024.
The bill is deemed to have been read a first time and is set down for second reading.
National Conservation Amendment Bill, 2024.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Border Control, Labor and Culture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. By virtue of Standing Order 58, I hereby wish to move the withdrawal of this National Conservation Amendment Bill 2024 at this time.
The anti-sexual harassment.
No, Madam Clerk. Sorry, I'm just want to make sure I get the name absolutely correct, given the significance of this. The question is that the National Conservation Amendment Bill 2024 be withdrawn. Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no. I believe the ayes have it. The National Conservation Amendment Bill 2024 is withdrawn.
The Anti-Sexual Harassment Bill 2025.
The bill has been deemed to have been read a first time and is set down for second reading.
The Grand Code Amendment Bill 2025.
The bill is deemed to have been read a first time and is set down for second reading.
Criminal Procedure Amendment Bill 2025.
The bill is deemed to have been read a first time and is set down for second reading.
Yes. Motions. Government Motion Number 7 of 2024 and 2025. Recommendations of the 2023 Electoral Boundary Commission to be moved by the Honorable Premier, Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Education, District Administration and Lands, Financial Services, and Commerce and Health.
I recognize the Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move Government Motion Number 7 of 2024-2025, recommendations of the 2023 Electoral Boundary Commission.
The motion has been duly moved. Does the Honorable Premier wish to speak thereto?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the motion, whereas in accordance with the Cayman Islands Constitution Order 2009 as amended, an Electoral Boundary Commission, the EBC, was duly appointed on the 4th day of January 2023. And whereas the EBC reviewed the 19 electoral boundaries, district boundaries of the Cayman Islands and submitted its findings thereon to the Governor and the Parliament in a report dated the 4th day of August 2023, the report. And whereas the EBC recommended that the electoral district boundaries, except for those for the District of Northside and Easton, be adjusted and that the 19 electoral districts be renamed. And whereas the recommended names for the 19 electoral districts and the estimated population sizes of each district are set out in Schedule A of the said report, whereas the precise boundaries of the 19 electoral districts are set out in Schedules B and C to the report. And whereas Schedule D to the report includes an alternative recommendation for 20 electoral districts. And whereas the Governor prepared a draft order giving effect to the recommendations contained in the report, and whereas the said draft offer was laid before the Parliament for its approval by the Premier on the 27th day of June last year, and rejected by a resolution of the Parliament on the 26th day of July 2024. And whereas Section 89(5) of the Constitution provides that if the motion for the approval of any draft order laid under Section 89 is rejected by the Parliament, an amended draft order shall be laid without undue delay by the Premier before the Parliament. Now, therefore, in exercise of the powers conferred by Section 89(5) of the Constitution, the Governor has made a draft amended order. Be it now, therefore, resolved that the Parliament hereby approves the draft amended order of Her Excellency the Governor for giving effect to the recommendations contained in the report. And Mr. Speaker, out of the abundance of cautions that it may not have been read or seen, the Governor drafted the following order, which, with your permission, I'd like to read into the records of this Honorable Parliament. Electoral District Boundaries Order 2025, Cayman Islands Constitution. Now, therefore, in exercise of the powers conferred by Section 89(5) of the Constitution, the Governor makes the following order. Whereas an electoral boundary commission was appointed on the 4th of January 2023 under Section 88 of the Constitution and is set out in Schedule 2 to the Cayman Islands Constitution Order 2009, Saturn 1, 2009, number 1379, as amended in this order referred to as the Constitution. And whereas under Section 89 of the Constitution, the Electoral Boundary Commission is charged with the responsibility for reviewing the boundaries of the electoral districts into which the Cayman Islands are divided and submitting a report to the governor and the parliament containing its recommendations for any changes in the number and boundaries of the electoral districts. And whereas in accordance with section 89(1) of the Constitution, the Electoral Boundary Commission on the 4th of August 2023 submitted to the governor and the parliament a report making recommendations for, among other things, the retention of all electoral districts. And whereas the Electoral Boundary Commission recommended that the 19 electoral districts be renamed. And whereas the report also included an alternative recommendation for 20 electoral districts. And whereas the Electoral Boundary Commission recommended that the electoral district boundaries, with the exception for those for the district of Northside and Easton, be adjusted. And whereas the recommended names of the 19 electoral districts and the estimated population sizes are set out in Schedule A of the report. And whereas the precise boundaries of the 19 electoral districts are set out in Schedules B and C of the report. And whereas it is provided by Section 89(3) of the Constitution that as soon as it may be after the Electoral Boundary Commission has submitted a report under Section 89(1), the Premier shall lay before Parliament for the approval the draft order by the Governor for giving effect, whether with or without modifications to the recommendations contained in the report. And whereas a draft order giving effect to the recommendations contained in the report of the Electoral Boundaries Commission was laid before Parliament for its approval by the Premier on the 27th day of June 2024 and was rejected by a resolution of the Parliament on the 26th day of July 2024. And whereas it is provided by Section 89(5) of the Constitution that if a motion for the approval of any draft order laid under Section 89 is rejected by the Parliament, an amended draft order shall be laid without undue delay by the Premier before the Parliament. Now, therefore, in exercise of the powers conferred by Section 89(5) of the Constitution, the Governor makes the following amended order. Citation and commencement, 1, subsection 1. This order may be cited as Electoral Boundaries, District Boundaries Order 2025. 2, the order comes into force upon the next dissolution in Parliament.
Of the Parliament.
Of the Parliament, which is the 1st of March. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Electoral districts and representatives. 2, subsect 1. The Cayman Islands shall be divided into the following 19 electoral districts. Subset A, West Bay 1, B, West Bay 2, C, West Bay 3, D, West Bay 4. E, Georgetown 1, F, Georgetown 2, G, Georgetown 3, H, Georgetown 4, I, Georgetown 5, J, Georgetown 6, K, Georgetown 7, L, Bordentown 1, M, Bordentown 2, N, Bordentown 3, O, Bordentown 4, P, Northside, Q, Easton, R, Cayman Brac 1, S, Cayman Brac 2, and Little Cayman. Each, subset 2, each electoral district shall be represented in the Parliament by one elected member, and it will be signed off by Her Excellency the Governor. Mr. Speaker, the integrity and equity of our electoral system remains paramount, particularly as we approach the general elections, which is scheduled for the 30th of April this year. Pursuant to Section 88 of the Cayman Islands Constitution, an electoral boundary commission is mandated to be appointed every 8 years to undertake a comprehensive review of the electoral district boundaries and recommend any necessary adjustments. After extensive deliberation and due consultation, the Commission submitted its report to the Governor and to the Parliament on the 4th of August, 2023. The 2023 report, Mr. Speaker, contains some key recommendations, including the retention of the 19 electoral districts, with modifications to certain district boundaries, as well as the renaming of the 19 constituencies. In accordance with the constructional mandated procedure, the then Honorable Acting Premier, MP for West Bay South, tabled the draft order from the Governor before the Honorable House in June 2024 via a government motion. However, on the 26th of July 2024, Parliament resolved to reject the motion and the accompanying draft order. However, Section 89.5, Mr. Speaker, of the Constitution provides that in the event of such a rejection, the Premier must, without undue delay, present an amended draft order for the consideration of this Honourable Parliament. Hence, Mr. Speaker, the motion currently is before the Parliament today. Mr. Speaker, I will highlight a couple of legal and constitutional points. Firstly, Cabinet approved that the Premier of the Cayman Islands table a motion at this said meeting dealing with the amended draft order from Her Excellency the Governor concerning the 2023 EBC report. 2, for clarity, Mr. Speaker, it is only this Parliament, no one else, this Parliament, under the Constitution that can approve or reject the draft order from the Governor. And by extension, the recommendations from the EBC, not the Cabinet, not the Premier, not even the Governor. The Premier is therefore duty-bound by Section 89.5 of the Constitution to bring an amended draft order by Her Excellency the Governor to give effect to the recommendations of the EBC. Once I conclude the contribution, Mr. Speaker, the exchange between the House is concluded. It then becomes the responsibility of this Honourable House to either approve or reject the EBC recommendation contained in the amended draft order. And Section 89.5, Mr. Speaker, of the Constitution expressly provides that the Parliament can reject and give leave to withdraw the amended draft order of Her Excellency. I would again emphasize, Mr. Speaker, that the Parliament is the only body that can approve or reject. Mr. Speaker, when the original draft order was before the House on the 26th of July 2024, the then acting Premier outlined in considerate detail the considerations for the House in determining whether to accept or reject the draft order. These were summarized under 4 main headings, namely 1, encouragement, efforts and methods, engagement, efforts and methods, I beg your pardon. 2, voter awareness and understanding. 3, the practical implications, particularly near to a general election. And 4, a preference for a specific term of reference. I do not propose, Mr. Speaker, then to repeat those observations in detail, but suffice to say that they are still relevant to the Parliament's determination of this motion and the amended draft order here today. Mr. Speaker, it is instructive to note that while Section 89.5 speaks about the laying of an amended draft order from the Governor, unfortunately, the Constitution itself provides no guidance on what form the amendment should take. However, from a legal perspective, the current amended draft order satisfies the constitutional requirement as set out in Section 89.5. Mr. Speaker, the timing of any electoral boundaries adjustment is a matter of critical importance. We are now less than 90 days away from a general election, a pivotal movement for our democracy. Any substantive modifications to electoral boundaries at this late stage, we believe in the government and is supported by the official opposition, it would risk engendering confusion among the electorate, particularly among those segments of our population that may already exhibit lower levels of electoral engagement. As custodians of democracy, Mr. Speaker, we have a solemn obligation to facilitate broad voter participation and to ensure that every elector is unequivocally informed as to their designated electoral district. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, adherence to the international electoral best practice is absolutely imperative. The Venice Commission on the Code of Conduct Practice in Electoral Matters is an authoritative instrument in this regard. It underscores the necessity of stability in the electoral laws. It specifically cautions, Mr. Speaker, against the implementation of significant amendments to electoral legislation within the year preceding a general election, much less 90 days therefrom. The underlying principle, Mr. Speaker, is to uphold electoral fairness and to ensure trust and confidence in the electoral process. While not legally binding in the United Kingdom or indeed the Cayman Islands, the Venice Commission principles have in fact influenced electoral governance in numerous democratic jurisdictions, reinforcing the importance of maintaining consistency in electoral administrations. As we approach the 2025 general election, Mr. Speaker, it is incumbent upon us to ensure that all stakeholders, voters, candidates, election officials, and the wider public are afforded adequate time to familiarize themselves with any modifications to the electoral framework. Stability in the electoral governance is not merely a matter of administrative convenience, Mr. Speaker. It is a fundamental prerequisite for the equitable conduct of electors and the preservation of democratic integrity. Mr. Speaker, with the EBC's recommendations, they are an intrinsic component of good governance. The timing and the practical ramifications of such changes must be judiciously considered. This Honorable House, therefore, Mr. Speaker, is now being called upon to deliberate on the amended draft order from Her Excellency the Governor in accordance with the constitutional procedure. I wish to assure the Honorable House, as well as the people of the Cayman Islands, that this government remains steadfast in its commitment to upholding the principles of electoral fairness, transparency, and stability. We will continue to take all necessary measures to ensure that the upcoming general election is conducted in a manner that instills public confidence and safeguards the democratic rights of all of our citizens. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, while the proposed boundary modifications may not be feasible for implementation at this time, the recommendations set out in the 2023 Electoral Boundaries Commission report may serve as a valuable framework for consideration in future electoral cycles, ensuring that any adjustments are introduced in a manner that upholds both the integrity of our democratic system and the confidence of the electorate. Mr. Speaker, in light of all of the above, the motion before the House is for consideration of an amended draft order by Her Excellency the Governor. However, I wish to remind members that it is entirely up to this Parliament to either approve or reject the recommendations contained in the amendment draft order, and I am constitutionally obliged to present this to the Honorable House for its consideration, and out of the abundance of caution that in the era and days of challenges, that no bright soul would challenge the electoral process, and in particular the 2025 election, based on the fact that there was a constitutional breach of Section 8 and 9. I have carried out my constitutional duty, Mr. Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? The Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise briefly just to thank the Honorable Premier for, first of all, discussing this with us previous to today, and running us through the technicalities, and the AG as well. I want to thank him for his diligent work. And just to say that we are thankful that this was picked up and that we will have no issues with the upcoming election. And we appreciate the Honorable Premier bringing this forward and identifying the problem and covering all the checks and balances as we move forward into the silly season. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? If not, I'll invite the Honorable Premier to exercise her right of reply.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. It would be remiss of me not to thank all honorable members who showed up today to make the court for their tacit support, fully wrapping their minds around and having the cognizance of the importance to be fully in adherence of the constitutional responsibility as we are eagerly anticipating the results of the 2025 elections. I thank you.
The question is, be it now therefore resolved that the Parliament hereby approves the draft amended order of Her Excellency the Governor for giving effect to the recommendations contained in the report. That is the Electoral Boundaries Commission's report. Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, no.
Oh.
I believe the noes have it.
Mr. Speaker, may we have a division out of the abundance of caution that there is
Madam
a
Clerk.
sense of unanimity.
Madam Clerk, please call a division.
Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly,
No.
Honorable Kenneth Bryan,
No.
Honorable Johanny Ebanks,
No.
Honorable Isaac Rankin,
No.
Mr. Bernie Bush, absent. Honorable Doreen Seymour,
Honorable member, you need to speak into the mic. This is important.
No.
Honorable McKeeva Bush, absent. Honorable Joseph Hugh,
No.
Miss Barbara Connolly,
No.
Mr. Andre Ebanks,
No.
Honorable Catherine Ebanks Wilkes,
No.
Miss Sabrina Turner,
No.
Honorable Heather Bodden,
No.
Honorable Wayne Panton,
No.
Mr. Moses Kernel,
No.
Mr. Roy McTaggart,
No.
Mr. David White,
No.
Mr. Christopher Saunders.
No.
The results of the division, 16 noes, 2 absentees. Government motion, accordingly, government motion number 7 of 2024-2025, entitled Recommendations of the 2023 Electoral Boundary Commission, has been rejected. We have reached the end of the order paper for today. Before I invite the Honorable Premier to adjourn the House, I just wish to remind members that the work of the Standing Orders Working Group has been completed, and we have a draft new set of standing orders to be considered by all members of the House. As the clerk has advised, I have called a meeting of the Standing Orders Committee for Monday at lunchtime so that all members may receive a presentation of the significant changes which are being proposed in the draft. And following that, we will then decide the way forward. It is my wish, my prayer, my hope, my dream that this House, after some 16 years of trying, will be able to approve a set of modern standing orders so that the next Parliament will have something modern and fit for purpose to guide the proceedings of this House going forward. All members will receive, if they have not yet done so, a copy of the draft for consideration over the weekend. And hopefully you will be able to devise what questions and relate what concerns you have about the proposed changes during the meeting on Monday. And as I said, we can then decide based on that how we move forward with respect to this matter. Honorable Premier, the adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the adjournment of this honorable House until Monday, the 3rd of February at 10 a.m. And just to give an indication, Mr. Speaker, that in Business Committee, there was consensus to work beyond the hour 4:30. Obviously, we will do the appropriate motions on the said day. The general consensus was between 7 to 9, left to your entire discretion, sir. And we would not be meeting on Tuesday as we'll be doing the executive work on Tuesday.
Thank you, Madam Premier. The question is that this House do now adjourn until 10 a.m. on Monday, 3rd of February. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. I believe the ayes have it. Accordingly, the House is now adjourned until 10 a.m. on Monday, 3rd of February.
Ran into the extent of my talent. I can't do this. It was a lovely thought. I can't pull it off.
I always appreciate the consistent latency in Zoom when everybody's at the same time. Huh? It's just a funny frame. On second thought, that's a negative, Batman. Negatory. Ah, I saw it earlier. No problem. I did see it at sound check. With yes. Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
I suddenly disappear. It's the DWP showed up to replace my broken electric meter without one. Construction guy slammed into it with an I-beam yesterday. Should be thankful. Not getting charged for this electricity.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours, where we answer your questions 7 days a week. Alexander, what do we have today?
First one this morning is from Alex Lindsay in Nevada, California. I hear Space Comms has been released. Can Jonas give us an update?
Go ahead, Jonas.
Yes, so on Wednesday, John Barker and we released our we call Space Comms. It's a next generation intercom system, and I'm gonna go here. So it's browser based, which has the advantage that if you want to use it right now, you can just in the browser. I'm gonna give you a tiny tour. Here is the backend. So as an admin, you can create a crew. You can have as many channels as you want, so you're not limited by arbitrary numbers like 6. You then create a member. So
Not that he's bitter. Not that he's bitter. 6.
Can
6
create
is
one for Alex. I can suggest a password, add a new member. Then I get a little thing that I can copy paste. And then I can decide what groups all that is in. One special functionality that we're super proud to launch with is you can add a talent link. So if you add those, you can decide who has access to those. You can rename them, and then you have this quick code. If you use that, you can log into a talent page, or I'm going to show that with the docs. You can use our Zoom app that we launched with that allows you to, as the admin, push the app to any participant within Zoom. Go to our docs, and there you can walk through. And then you invite people. And the cool thing is, since we use Zoom guest mode, there's no need to have them allow it. There's no need to like have their admin say, hey, yeah, that is fine. There's no requirement there. And then I'm going to show you how it looks if you're actually in the system. So here you can have all your PLs. You have volume per VL, talk, listen. You can talk on multiple, disable your mic, so you kind of have like a multi-talk. You can solo. So like you can do things like this if you just need to say something to audio. Obviously, listen and all that. Mic speaker selection. If you want to change how, like, maybe you're a producer and you don't really care for the engineering, but really would like to see more of the editorial stuff, you can move your PLs. We have an API, so you can use it with Companion directly. So yeah, just open up Companion and connect with that. And then we also have program mode. So if you need to send higher quality audio, for example, for your program feed, that's what you would use there. That way we know how that you want high quality audio. We send it in stereo. We disable all our back end features there. Yeah.
You know, it's amazing when you can tell. It's something about software. You can tell when the person who wrote the software actually does the thing that the software is supposed to do. You know, like it's made with a lot of care. How do people, if they wanted to check out more about Space Comms or try it out, where would they look?
Just go to spacecomms.io. That is Space Comms with a C at the end. And yeah, you can create a free account. 2 users are free. And then one of the things that was also really important to us is have scalable pricing. Because what I hate is when you as a technician need to tell your client, yeah, that, oh, by the way, where you're like, hey, we have this new intern that we would love to be able to also see what you're doing. We can't do. I hate when you then have to say, now we are bumped into the next year. So it's $850 plus tax per month per user. And you can have multiple subscriptions. What that means is you can have weekly, monthly, and yearly subscriptions, multiple with however many people you need. So that way, you can start with your base people. You know, these 3 people are always going to be there. You do yearly with them. Then you do an additional 5 for a month because you have a project. And then on the day of show, the client comes up and says, hey, I need those 5 people more. Then you can just do a weekly pricing, and then you can cancel whenever you need to.
Alex?
How do you get audio from, let's say, another comm system in? So let's say I'm on the ground. How would you approach, like, I'm on the ground and there are a handful of PLs that from, let's say, a Riedel that I need to tie into Space Comms. How would you do that?
That is probably still the biggest lacking part. Right now, you would just open multiple tabs, but we are working on an app that allows you to just pick channels from like something like DVS or another virtual sound card and then pipe that into Space Comms. But that and the mobile app is what we're going to be working with the most on next.
And how many do you think would be the maximum number in Space Comms? Like, what's the max you've tested? I guess specifically, do you think 150 people on Space Comms would be workable?
It depends how many are talking. There's a technical limitation to 100 people talking at the same time. There's some optimization for us to do above that. So right now it's probably 100-ish. That being said, for example, with the listen-only links, those just scale. And in theory, we don't impose limits.
But if you had like 100 and only a couple are talking at a time, it wouldn't be a problem, or would be? So even if they had both talking, it's just like I'm calling out to somebody, or okay.
Yeah, and like right now, to be honest, we haven't built the optimization that we like. We haven't built the optimization to go above 100 yet.
Got it.
But that is relatively straightforward, and our engine is able to do it. So like, there's a lot of features that are not surfaced yet that our engine can do a scale like that. We can, it's built in mind with the typical question, can we self-host a server and stuff like that? So that is all things that our engine can do. but that we are still working out the details.
How far out do you think the mobile app is?
It's a great question. I probably think we're hoping for NAB, but I'm sure you know how it always is. We have the engine working on mobile, but the biggest thing is going to be getting through approvals, and we want to get it right. So like, we know what happens when you get a call and all that. But NAB is our goal.
Cool.
Jonas, thank you very much. If you're interested in finding out a little more about that, spacecoms.io, SPACECOMMZ.io. Next question.
This one's from Zach Stalsmith in Chautauqua, New York. I use a USB audio interface as a backup feed. I have to keep bus levels on the X32 and in vMix down -10 dB from Unity. Otherwise, there is a nasty hum and static noise, but it's hard to hear. And he's got a link to a ART USB Phono Plus.
Go ahead, Alexander.
I really hope this isn't the one that you're using, because if that's the one that you bought, that is a phono preamplifier for a turntable. That is not a line level interface. So no wonder you're getting a lot of noise there. So if you're within the Amazon return window, I would suggest you promptly return that and get yourself, if you just need 2-channel audio in and out, I would get, and almost anything will work just fine. But for example, a Universal Audio Volt, I think they're on sale right now. Those are really high quality, and they will take a high level input signal. The line inputs are very good, and the line outputs are very good quality on those. So I would look at something like a UA Volt 2 as an interface and return that.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Because look, I have one here that I did buy for the right purpose, which is to interface my old turntable into USB to capture digitized records. But it does have RIAA filtration on it, so it's designed for, the preamp is designed on the phono end at least for a phonograph at a very low level, so that's coming from the pickup on a old conventional analog phono. So it's fairly high amplification, which means it's going to be noisy. And you'll notice that there's something you don't normally see on the back of audio equipment anymore, which is a grounding lug, where you're supposed to attach a ground to the between your amplifier and this preamp to ground those nasty hums. So you might try the ground thing before you send it back and see if it gets rid of your hum. But like I say, if you're not plugging a pickup off of a turntable into it, it's probably not the preamp for you to get into USB.
But hey, if you're past the Amazon return window, pick up a nice turntable with some Mortifon Red cartridges in it and have a good weekend. Next question.
From the QR code, Abraham Barrera and Flowery Branch. Don't know if you already talked about this, but can we talk about the opening shot for Severance Season 2, Episode 1, camera movements, and what cameras were used? Amazing.
Go ahead, Bill.
And Bill, I'm going to try to jump the line here because I grabbed a bunch of videos here and then fill in whatever you want to say there. But I got a chance to see this one a little earlier. So what we're talking about here is this open here. This is and this is on YouTube. You can take a look at it. It's pretty fun background. So there's a lot of movement here, and then he starts to run. And obviously there's a lot of running. And so there have been a lot of discussion about exactly like how all of this running was done. It turned out the running was done over 5 months. So the shot took 5 months to do because they didn't have all the hallways done. And so they would get different parts done, and they needed to put it together. Now, there is a great breakdown of this with Ben Stiller and Adam Scott. So they actually, if you go to YouTube, there's a 12-minute breakdown. I'll give you a couple of the highlights here. But one of the things they keep on talking about is the bolt arm. I'm sure that Mark Roberts would really love for them to say the MRMC bolt. Like this is like, as opposed to, they just keep on saying the bolt arm. This is the bolt arm. So when they talk about bolt arms, this is the controller here. So basically it's a motion control arm. And you can see how it runs here. And they talk about how scary it is, because it is. If you've ever watched one in person, you know that if you got in the way, that would probably be the end. So it's a big piece of equipment moving very, very quickly. So this is what, when they talk about the bolt arm, that's what they're talking about here. And I'll show you some behind the scenes that shows it. Now, one of the things that they talked about here, and so what they're using this for, this bolt, is if you go into the very beginning, when he comes out of the, so this, let's see here. So I think we missed it right. Yeah, right here. So when he comes out of here, this right here, see that movement? That's the bolt. So that's, and they did as much as they could physically. They did talk about the fact that they needed to recreate parts of it. And if you look at the behind the scenes, this running is actually a pole. So here is the actual, someone posted this. It's only got about 117 views so far, probably more after this. And so this is, you can see them, slating it. This is the tracks that the bolt arm sits on. So you can see why they needed to recreate some of the digital area here. They talked about the fact that the bolt they required them to pull some arms out. But you can see them slated here. And here's the little camera. And so he's got this little, right? They've got, it's a little gyro. So it's got, it's a stabilizer on there with a little camera, and he's running behind him. And you can see that I think that they must have put another gyro, another camera control on underneath it on the bottom of the pole. They put another one there just to capture the behind the scenes. But you can see that and that when they asked, they said that it would be harder to have a Steadicam operator would have a hard time running as fast as they could run with the pole. And you can see it there. The other interesting piece that they talked about was that here, there's a point where he is running, and it goes from, I think it's right here. It goes from him. Let's see if it's right here when they run. Right there, he's actually in that. When they go around him, he's actually on a treadmill on a green screen, and they said they had to. It was the only way they could get around. They could get the shot. So very complex shot, but mostly logistics. They didn't go heavy. There's a couple of his POVs that I think are CG, and then they just, when they swing, they do it. But there's a great breakdown from. It's kind of like a producer's breakdown from Ben Stiller and Adam Scott. They kind of understand what they're looking at, but I thought it was fun to take a look at it. So. But that's kind of the breakdown of that, and these are all worth checking out. It's gotten a lot of PR, and that shows you why it's worth doing sometimes and breaking things down, because a lot of people are talking about it.
Go ahead, Bill.
So Alex talked about the equipment and the physicality of it. I just thought the aesthetics were astonishing. And if you looked at that behind the scenes, you can see that the way the shot actually looks when it was broadcast is not the same as what you saw there. The colorists involved, the lighting directors, everybody on every team is working at the absolute height of this. And when you think about it, the scene is basically a guy running down a white hallway. All the architecture, all the set dressing, all the design of everything really, I think, makes this thing so spectacular, because you don't have a lot of detail, but what they do with lighting, the little vertical stripes on the walls and things like that, is what gives it this sense of relentless motion and confusion as it spins around. And there is not a frame I could find in that didn't look painterly to me. And what I mean by that is it didn't look like it was beautifully set up. So this is really every craft working together at the highest end of visual arts to make something that is basically a boring idea. I mean, if you took a camera into a white set of hallways and just ran down it would be utterly unwatchable. And yet this is exactly the opposite. It is utterly compelling. That, plus, of course, the actor doing a superb job of giving you the feeling that he's lost and in desperation, really keeps you compelled through the whole thing. So my point is that it's never one thing, it's everything. And Apple is really hitting on all cylinders on some of their production like this. They're not missing anything, whether it's acting, direction, blocking, planning, pre-planning, and all of the things that Alex talked about, equipment and operators working at the highest level to do something really spectacular. Well done.
Alexander?
Yeah, it's really an amazing show. I just finished my rewatch of season 1 because I forgot some things. And I have to say, I really appreciate some of the details. And I actually missed some things the first time around. So, and now I'm fully caught up. The Ben Stiller breakdown of how they did this was amazing. But Alex, did you notice that when he was demonstrating, did you notice that he was using a marker on glass to kind
Yeah,
of tell
I was
Does he
gonna
not
reach out.
know that you have an amazing telestration app?
I was going to reach out to the Vanity Fair and go, hey, I can make that look better. Like, I'm sure that there was, the hard part is that they don't show him wiping it off. So that means they had to stop cutting every single time because he couldn't, there's better ways to do that than markers on glass. I'm not sure. I'm almost certain that the reason they did it is because they looked at other telestrator solutions and they were expensive or complicated and they didn't understand how to do them and they just did that. So hopefully we can help them with that in the future.
Hey, your questions and votes do drive the show. So remember, you can use Makana to not only ask questions, but you can also chat about the questions, vote on the questions. If you don't have access or you don't know what I'm talking about, head over to officehours.global/join. Sign up there. You'll get an email with links on how to get into Makana, the Discord, and all the good stuff. Next question.
This one's from the QR code as well. Alex in Montreal is asking, what camera, microphone, earpiece, IFB, earpiece interfaces, USB-C computer software are you using on your live streams?
Alexander?
For me, my most of my production now is done because a lot of it is done over Zoom. So I'm using Mimo Live, which is a compositing program. So that allows me to bring in participants over Zoom. I use some of my cameras. They're not all identical. I use Micro Four Thirds as the format because those are the lenses that I have that I started out with. So they work pretty well for me in my space. I've got, they're all Panasonic Lumix cameras. I have some G7s and GH5s, GH5. The one I'm on is a GH5S. And I have all the same lens. It is a Sigma 30 millimeter f1.4, which I run fully open. Those are nice and they allow a lot of light and get that bokeh that you see behind me here. And that is only about 3.5, 4 feet behind me here. So those are the lenses that I use. My console is a Yamaha DM3, which is a 16 input console, small form factor. It has Dante built in, so I'm using Dante audio to deliver this over to Zoom today, right now, in this meeting. So that's working really well for me. I love the DM3 in its small form factor, and like all Yamaha stuff, it sounds really great. The preamps on these are good. They're actually improved over the TF console, which is an older design. So that's what I'm using, and I use Mimo Live to actually live stream to YouTube as well.
Jonas? Go ahead, Courtney.
Surprise. I was trying to bring up a picture, but yeah, I use the same thing I'm using right now. I use for a camera, the Canon EOS M50 Mark II with the kit lens on it, which is I think a 14-75. For audio and video, I use the Rodecaster Pro 2 and the ATEM Mini Pro. And of course, for my microphone, my Stellar X2, which is a $200 microphone that goes into the Rodecaster Pro Mark II.
Alexander?
I partially answered that question. So I forgot to mention some of the other things that you asked about, Alex. So microphone right now, I'm on an AKG C414 BULS, which they don't make anymore. I also have other microphones that I use. I've got RE20s from Electro Voice and RE27s from the same company. For in-ear monitors, I'm using Westone Audio. That's what I'm on right now. It's really hard to see. This is why I like these. They're so discreet and they go all the way in. If I turn sideways, you can kind of see it there. And the wire is so unbelievably thin. These are the Pro X50s, which are their higher end quintuple driver IEMs, and I'll never go back to anything cheaper just because they sound so good. So I think I covered everything there now.
Bill?
The litany for me is I'm on a Blackmagic 6K behind a teleprompter rig. I'm speaking into a Neumann TL110103 microphone. It's going through a Rolls mic mute into a Universal Audio Apollo Solo. That's my interface out. As an IFB, I'm using the N-Ear. They're really security, but very high level security. It has an incredibly tiny wire, and you can't even really see it even when I'm turning my ear towards you because it's a super fine system. And what was the last thing you asked? Oh, computer software. I'm on a Mac